Part 1. Opening. The story of two people. Let me tell you a story. Two people, same city, same birth year, and the same dream of a better life. The first person, let's call him Mike. Mike was a software engineer. He was smart, hardworking, and earned $220,000 a year, a number that 99% of the world's population dreams of. Mike lived in a small apartment in the city center, drove the latest model car, and dined at fancy restaurants. The second person, let's call her Sarah. Sarah was an elementary school teacher. She loved children, loved her job, and earned $55,000 a year, just a quarter of Mike's income. Sarah lived in a small house in the suburbs, drove a 10-year-old car, and cooked dinner at home. If you met them on the street, who would you think was wealthy? Now fast forward 20 years. Mike, the software engineer, is sitting in a lawyer's office, signing bankruptcy papers. The years of earning millions had passed, leaving nothing but debts and cars repossessed by the bank. Sarah, the elementary school teacher, has just returned from her third trip to Europe that year. She owns 2 rental properties, has enough savings to live for 20 years without working, and is teaching her grandchild how to invest in index funds. The question is, why? I've spent 20 years in the financial industry. I've met thousands of Mikes and thousands of Sarahs. And today, I want to tell you the real story, the backstory of money. Not the cliché advice about saving money, not the get-rich-quick secrets, but the thing that truly separates the wealthy from the poor, no matter how much money they make. Welcome to Money Backstory. Part 2. The Poverty Trap, the story of the cow. To understand why people stay poor, I want to take you to a place far away, a small village in Bangladesh. In the 1990s, economists from Yale and Oxford universities conducted a study that spanned decades. They wanted to answer a seemingly simple question: if you give poor people a valuable asset, will they escape poverty? They chose a very special asset, a cow. You see, in rural Bangladesh, a cow isn't just an animal. It's a food-producing factory. It gives milk. Milk can be drunk, or it can be sold. A female cow gives birth to calves. Calves grow into new cows. One cow, if cared for properly, can be the beginning of a herd, the beginning of wealth. The researchers selected 2 groups of households. Group A. Households with assets above a certain threshold, about $500. Roughly the price of a cow plus a little working capital. Group B. Households with assets below that threshold, about $400. Both groups were given a cow. And then, the story began. Group A. The households that already had a little capital, they could keep the cow. They had money to buy feed when winter came. They could pay the veterinarian when the cow got sick. They could wait for the cow to grow, to reproduce, for the herd to increase. 5 years later, this group didn't just have 1 cow. They had 3, 4, 5 cows. They sold milk. They sold calves. They crossed the poverty threshold and never looked back. Group B. The slightly poorer households, the story was completely different. When winter came, they had no money to buy feed. The cow grew thin. Then someone in the family got sick, no money for medicine. They looked at the cow and made a painful decision. They sold the cow. They sold their future to save the present. And when the cow was sold, the money was just enough to pay off debts and buy medicine. They returned to $400, poorer than before they received the cow. The researchers called this phenomenon by a name: the poverty trap. An invisible trap, where being just $100 short, just $100, could determine the fate of an entire family for generations. $100. That's the distance between building a herd and losing everything. And you know what? In the modern world we live in, that trap is still here. It's not a cow. It's Part 3. 5 Modern Traps. It's credit cards. It's car loans. It's the daily financial decisions we never realize are keeping us below the threshold. Let me tell you about 5 modern traps, 5 cows we sell every day without even knowing it. Trap 1. Living paycheck to paycheck. The first trap is living from paycheck to paycheck. It's not about how much money you make, but the gap between paychecks. Imagine you're walking on a tightrope. Below you is a bottomless pit. Twice a month, a helicopter drops a crate of supplies. You live off that crate. But if you slip, if there's an unexpected medical bill, if your car breaks down, if your company lays you off, you fall into the abyss. The wealthy don't walk on tightropes. They have a safety net, savings enough to live for 6 months, 12 months, 24 months. They can fail without falling. The poor, whether they earn $50,000 or $200,000 a year, if they live paycheck to paycheck, they're walking on a tightrope with no net. Trap 2. Gambling instead of investing. The second trap is confusing investing with gambling. I had a young client. He was 25, with $5,000 to invest. I advised him to put it in an S&P 500 index fund, a fund that's grown an average of 10% per year for nearly a century. With that $5,000, after 40 years, he'd have over $200,000. He looked at me and laughed. $200,000 after 40 years? Too slow. I want to get rich fast. He withdrew the money and invested in a cryptocurrency he didn't understand. 3 months later, that currency lost 90% of its value. $5,000 became $500. That's not investing. That's gambling. And in a casino, the house always wins. The wealthy understand the power of time. They know that 10% per year, with compound interest, turns a patient person into a millionaire. They don't seek to get rich quickly. They seek to get rich steadily. Trap 3. Fake wealth. The third trap is the most dangerous. I call it fake wealth. You see others driving BMWs, so you want to drive a BMW. You see others carrying Louis Vuitton bags, so you want one too. You see them dining at 5-star restaurants, so you want to make reservations. But you don't see them sleeping in a tiny 20 square meter rental room. You don't see them taking out loans to make payments. You don't see the nightly anxiety as they calculate whether they can pay this month's debts. There's a rule I teach all my clients. The 75-15-10 rule. 75% of your income goes to living, food, shelter, clothing, transportation. 15% goes to investing. 10% goes to savings. If you spend 95% on living, if you live fake wealthy, you'll never have the 15% to invest. You'll never have the 10% to save. You'll run on a hamster wheel forever, running fast but going nowhere. Trap 4. Credit score, friend or foe. The fourth trap is ignoring your credit score. I had 2 clients. They bought the same house, at the same price, at the same time. One had a credit score of 800. The other had a score of 620. The first got a loan at 4% interest. The second got a loan at 7% interest. They paid off the loan over 30 years. The first paid a total of $515,000. The second paid a total of $720,000. Over $200,000 difference, just because of a credit score. A credit score isn't about borrowing money. It's about determining how much you pay for everything in life. A good score is your ticket to buying everything cheaper. Trap 5. Confusing good debt with bad debt. The final trap is confusing good debt with bad debt. Bad debt is debt used to buy things that lose value, cars, clothes, new phones. Good debt is debt used to buy things that gain value, houses, education, businesses. But the most insidious trap is credit card debt at 22% interest. I meet so many people who have $5,000 in credit card debt at 22% interest, while simultaneously investing $200 a month in stock funds. They think they're being smart, paying off debt while investing. But the truth is that $200 they invest, if they're lucky, might grow 10% a year. The $5,000 they owe, guaranteed, grows 22% a year. They're losing money every day without knowing it. The golden rule: pay off all bad debt before investing. That's the surest investment there is, a guaranteed 22% return. Part 4. The Invisible Wall. But there's something I haven't told you yet. The traps I just described, they're personal traps. They're mistakes we can fix. But there's another invisible wall. A wall that not everyone sees, and not everyone can cross. It's the story we were told since childhood. Let me tell you about Maria. Maria grew up in a family where money was always a source of anxiety. Don't buy that. Don't you see we're poor? Rich people are greedy, sweetheart. Money can't buy happiness. Those phrases, spoken innocently, with love, became part of Maria's DNA. They became her money story. 20 years later, Maria earns $100,000 a year. But every time she has extra money, she feels anxious, guilty. She finds ways to spend it, buying something luxurious, helping relatives, anything to bring her bank balance back to the familiar number, the number of scarcity. Maria isn't poor because she can't earn money. Maria is poor because the story in her head won't let her keep money. I've seen this hundreds of times. People born in poverty, when they earn money, usually have two reactions. Either they spend it all because they're afraid of losing it, or they give it all away because they feel guilty. People born into comfortable families, when they earn money, do something very different. They invest, they build, they put money to work. Not because they're smarter, but because the story in their heads is different. They were taught that money is a tool, not a source of guilt. They were taught they deserve to have money. They were taught how to make money grow. That story, your money story, is the most powerful invisible wall of all. Part 5. Crossing the threshold. So how do we cross over? How do we become the people who can keep the cow, raise it, and build a herd? The answer lies in the same poverty trap research I told you about. The researchers discovered that small, gradual changes are often not enough to escape the trap. To cross the threshold, you need a big push. For the Bangladeshi farmer, that push was the cow plus enough money to feed it through the first winter. For you, that push might be 1. Sell the expensive car. Buy a used one. I know, it sounds like it goes against everything advertising teaches you. But do the math. A new car costs you $800 a month. A used car costs $200, $600 a month. $7,200 a year is freed up. That's money to pay off debt, to invest, to build a safety net. 2. Invest in yourself, but strategically. $500 for a course could increase your salary by $5,000 a year. That's a 1,000% return. No stock in the world can do that. Investing in your skills is investing in the only thing you truly own, your ability to earn. 3. Automate your future. You will never save what's left at the end of the month, because there will be nothing left. Humans aren't designed to do that. Design a system. The day your salary arrives, a fixed amount automatically moves to a savings account. $50, $100, $200. You don't see it, you don't touch it, you don't spend it. After a year, you'll have an amount you never thought you could save. This isn't about willpower. This is about technique. The wealthy don't use willpower to keep money, they use systems. Part 6. 2 circles. There are two circles in everyone's life. The first circle is the vicious circle. No savings to emergency happens to borrow money to pay high interest to even less money for savings to next emergency to borrow again. This is Mike's circle, the poor Bangladeshi farmer's circle. The circle of millions of people in this world. They're not lazy. They're not stupid. They're just trapped in a circle where every turn pulls them deeper down. The second circle is the virtuous circle. Small savings to invest to earn returns to buy assets generate income to more money to save and invest. This is Sarah's circle, the farmer who crossed the threshold circle. The circle of people who build wealth over decades. Which circle are you in? And more importantly, do you see the door to move from one circle to the other? That door is the threshold, the big push. The first savings. The bold decision to break the pattern. That door is right in front of you. Part 7. Conclusion. Your story. I began this video with the story of Mike and Sarah. Mike, the software engineer, who earned $220,000 a year and ended up bankrupt. Sarah, the elementary school teacher, who earned $55,000 a year and built her own small empire. Their story isn't about money. It's about choices. Mike chose to live fake wealthy. Sarah chose to live within her means. Mike chose to gamble on risky investments. Sarah chose patience with index funds. Mike chose to walk the tightrope without a net. Sarah chose to build the net first, then step out. 20 years in finance taught me one thing. Wealth doesn't come from big, dramatic decisions. It comes from thousands of small decisions. Every day, repeated over years. It comes from skipping that expensive coffee today to invest for 30 years from now. It comes from learning to say no to social pressure. It comes from changing the story in your head, from I don't deserve to I can build. I don't know what your story is. I don't know where you were born, how much you earn, or which circle you're in. But I know this. You can change that story. You can be the one who sells the cow because the winter is too long. Or you can be the one who raises the cow through the winter and builds a herd. The difference isn't $100. The difference is the decision you make right now. Thank you for staying with Money Backstory. If this story touched you, please like this video, share it with a friend, someone you want to escape the poverty trap too. And subscribe to join me as we explore more backstories of money. Because sometimes, to change the future, you just need to truly understand the past. See you in the next video.